And they told me he got killed in Laos. That's where our whole outfit went to.
But an emotional reunion between these two friends who served during the Vietnam War, two vets who never dreamed they would be reunited after all these years.
That's a great story. Good evening. On the heels of the Veterans Day celebrations all around the region comes the story of the reuniting of two Vietnam War era vets.
One of them actually heard that the other had died in war, but he is very much alive. And so is the bond between two men who shared so much. Gretchen Parsons joins us from the newsroom with this story, new at 6.
Mark, Hugh Brown and Alvis Jackson, they clicked instantly back in the early 1960s when the two got out of basic training and were assigned to the same unit. After several years of friendship, Brown and Johnson were moved around throughout the military, and Brown learned Johnson had died during combat in Laos, or at least so he thought. This Veterans Day, the two connected for the first time in over 50 years.
We got to be really super good friends.
And we connected real quick.
That was back during the Vietnam War in the early 1960s where this picture was taken. Hugh Brown and Alvis Johnson were stationed in Monterey County, California.
And then they pulled me out and put me in the military police.
While Brown was training for the military police, he and Johnson lost touch.
Then I got to checking up on him after I got out of the Army, and they told me he was dead. 50 years. Now there he is.
Brown was told Johnson had been deployed to Laos, where many others in his unit landed, and ultimately died in action. It wasn't until 2 years ago Brown learned from a friend and fellow vet that Johnson was very much alive.
30 minutes he called me back and he said, "Hey, Alvis is not dead. You want his telephone number?"
Brown didn't know what to expect when he made that first phone call to his long-lost comrade.
He's got a laugh that you can't get away from. And I said something that made him laugh, and I knew, hey, that's a real one.
Pretty shaky. Because, you missed your friend all these years, said, because we lost contact with one another, back and forth, started laughing, this and that, so he said about my laugh.
It took 2 years of correspondence before Johnson finally decided to pay Brown a visit in Idaho. Johnson has been living in Northern California for the past 20 years. Their long overdue reunion just happened to fall over Veterans Day and made for a very memorable one.
He'd come off the airplane at Boise. The first time I'd seen him since 1961.
It's amazing to see him again. Makes me feel so good. Real great.
Johnson also told me how nice he thinks the people here in Idaho are and how many strangers came up to him to tell him thank you for your service over the weekend. Johnson plans to come back next summer to visit his long-lost friend for 2 weeks.
That's an incredible story. The power of friendship, especially in wartime. You hear that when veterans start talking about their brothers, and that's a beautiful illustration. Thanks, Gretchen.
Sounds like they picked up right where they left off.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, 50 years.